part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
How's it going, everybody? This is Ben Billman, the host of the Full 40 College Basketball Podcast. I'll be coming to you weekly with the latest news and notes in college basketball. We'll be talking about which teams are rising, which teams are falling, and any other news or headlines that are dominating the world of college basketball, all the way until March Madness.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
What's good, breakers? That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast presented by DraftKings, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me is the NBA writer for HoopsWire.com. He's our Cavs insider, breaking national news, NBA writer Sam Amico. Sam, you are all over the place, all over the interwebs, all over the X is what we call it now, Twitter. How you doing, man? Your fingers on fire.
I'm doing well. Yeah, a lot of it feels like I've been typing nonstop most of the day. Thankfully, things slowed down a little bit. There were no more injuries after like 5 o'clock, which seems to be a miracle with the Cavs. But anyway.
Yeah, and here to help us talk about that, no one else we'd rather talk Cavs basketball with than the one, the only. He does sports at Fox 8, hosts the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast right here on Press Play. John Sabol. John, you were working tonight. It's Friday. We're recording, and you're like, I got to jump on my way home from the desk to talk about this crazy, could be, and I'm not trying to exaggerate, could be franchise-altering day in Cleveland Cavalier basketball. John, what say you, sir?
Well, like Sam, it's been a busy day. We're doing live hits in the early shows, 4, 5, 6, and 10. That was one of our top stories here locally. And, just a busy day. I mean, I said this tonight. I think the Cavs heard what the Browns had with their injuries over in Berea, and then the Independents are like, hold our beer, and just kind of one-upped them with the 1-2 punch of their two young core done for at least a month in Garland and with Mobley 6 to 8 weeks. Guys, this is just a massive blow, and the season on the brink, or on the Cavs on the bleak, as we want to say.
Yeah. So for those who are unaware or are wanting more information, today around what time was that? Today, mid-morning. This was
around like 3 o'clock today.
1:40.
Okay.
1:40, 1:39 is where I first saw it on Twitter. Darius Garland was reported to have a broken jaw in a collision against the Celtics with Kristaps Porzingis in their loss last night, Thursday, December 14th. He will be out 4 to 6 weeks. And not very long after that, maybe like an hour, not even, Evan Mobley. So Shams dropped the Garland news. And then about 40, 60 minutes later, Woj gives a Woj bomb. Evan Mobley undergoing arthroscopic knee surgery to his left knee to remove discomfort that they found during rehab, and bringing him back out 6 to 8 weeks. And Sam, at this point, your phone's blowing up. You are just you're hitting posts and getting more information. Sam, where do you start if you're the Cavs? Where do you start with this? Like, where does this put us? What are we? 13 and 12.
13 and 13. Yeah.
13 and 13.
13 and 12, guys, I think it is, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do we know? We're only on a Cavs podcast.
Yeah.
I just looked. They're 13 and 12.
Okay, 13 and 12. Yeah. So
where do the Cavs start? What is going on up in Cleveland at the Rock?
Well, I think that obviously there's the initial reaction probably from the team that the fans and the media probably were just like, wow, those are two big blows, At the same time, if you're the players and your guys, like obviously Donovan Mitchell you're playing with great deal of confidence, and you're thinking we can overcome this. And then this is going to provide obviously an opportunity for other guys. So, they're going to have to step up. Obviously, we've seen Dean Wade playing quite a bit.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of LeVert, no Okoro. Knock on wood. Hopefully that, the key rotation players can stay healthy now, because you've got very little margin for error at 13 and 12 with, you really don't want to lose too many more games before February. Last year, 51 and 31 didn't they finish? So they're just 19 losses away from that now with 56 games to go. So, on the bright side, look, they've got 4 straight home games. And then, all the way till January, when you think about that stretch, January through 3rd through 17th, they have 6 straight home games. So for the next month, they're going to be at home more often than not. If you're going to have these kind of injuries, it's better to do this than to be going on some long West Coast trip or the East Coast trip that they just got off of. So I think that, we could get into the analysis later, but I think that, yeah, there's the initial shock, there's the initial stun, and then you say there's nothing we can do about it. It's going to be an opportunity for other guys step up, step in, and let's get back to work.
And I want to talk about those other guys in a moment. But John, I have to ask, we're after the midseason tournament. We're in the awful part of the NBA schedule, the middle of December to end of January. You have your 2 youngest stars with the cornerstone pieces of this franchise. If this was, say, maybe, I don't know, March, April, and you're playing for playoffs, is Garland and Mobley, are they going to be injured? Or are they looking at the schedule and they're saying, you know what, we're going to give these guys I believe everything that every organization ever releases in public. No organization ever is underplaying or overplaying or ever wrong or trying to not be honest. But I'm just curious, is this a case of these, oh yeah, we have a good stretch of home games, it's December, let's maybe just rest some legs a little bit?
Are you giving me a hypothetical here?
I'm just asking. I don't know. I mean, I broken jaw sounds pretty serious. I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. If you watched the game last night and you saw Darius Garland run into Kristaps Porzingis, you didn't think it was a broken jaw right away. And if you continue to watch him throughout the game, I mean, he came back and played in the 4th quarter, and then he hit like a big 3 in the 4th quarter, and the camera zoomed in on him, and he's still moving his jaw around. It clearly was bothering him. The injury didn't appear to be serious at first. It seemed like he just got bumped in the face when he ran into Porzingis' chest, and he clearly had discomfort throughout the flight back and in the evening, where they decided, let's just give this an imaging. And they did that at the Cleveland Clinic, and the CT scan showed that he had a fractured jaw, which is just a freak injury. I mean, you got to give him credit to play through that and to finish the game, no less. And no one thought twice about it. I mean, we weren't there, but to my knowledge, I don't think JB was really even asked about it after the game. And then the Mobley injury kind of caught everyone even more surprised, because he's missed 4 games with this knee injury, and he was doing a little rehab, got a little discomfort, and then boom, they find what they call a loose body in his knee that he needs to be repaired or removed, and you do that through arthroscopic surgery. So I think both instances are just freak injuries. It's a freak situation that both occurred on the same day, or I guess we find out on the same day, or they made the decision and both medicals came back at the same time frame, and it just happened to happen that way. I just think it's just a bad luck to a team that's had bad luck all year, that has been missing pieces all year long through minor injuries and haven't played consistent basketball. We've talked about it on the pod. Sam has written about it on HoopsWire. I've talked about it on Fox 8. And the moment you finally get some nice games together, you get, okay, we got bright spots. Then you go on this road trip, which we haven't talked about, and you go 1-3, which we said on last pod, Sam, that if they go 1-3 on it or 2-2, it's success. At least you don't want to get swept, and they did that. And then this happens. It's just another crushing blow, and it kills the thing that you want to take this next step. You lose in the first round of the playoffs last spring. You take this next step. You want to with these free agent additions of George Niang and Max Strus. You have the experience. You think Mitchell and the guys are going to be better. And it just has been a disaster to the start of the season. And now you have this. And, I mean, I'm going to take the words out of Sam's mouth here. This is a play-in tournament team right now. Am I right, Sam? You're going to say that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they with 13 and 12, injuries or not, the bottom line is this is your record. You're 13 and 12. That's all that matters. That's all the NBA considers when it comes time to play, make the playoffs or qualify for the play-in tournament. They don't say, well, you had a bunch of injuries, so we're letting you in. It's, and right now, all things considered, 25 games, you're a play-in team. I mean, the standings show that. So that's where they are right now. And I hope for their sake that's not where they're headed. I think that they're a much better team than a play-in team, but you've got to have that luck and stay on the court. And I'm not questioning injuries by any stretch, but I'm just saying the reality of the situation is you've got to have that luck. And look, again, the good news is 25 games in, if you're gonna have to have injuries that are this severe where guys are missing 6 to 8 weeks, now is the ideal time for it to happen. You don't want it happening after, say, really to me, the season January 7th. After that is really kind of like when teams are going full force. I don't know why I picked out the 7th, probably because that's a trade deadline day. Like in terms of guys,
That's a
lot
Sunday.
of guys who signed off-season deals can become trade eligible on January 7th. So after that, I think teams really make their big push, and that's where you want to be able to stay healthy, get healthy, and at least have some semblance where you're playing. Your main players are playing more than 6-7 games at a time with each other.
Sam?
And the thing that oh, go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
No, John, continue.
I was just going to say the one thing that the timing of this, Chase and Sam, is that, it sucks it's happening now, but it's also good that it happens now because you don't want these injuries to happen in February. You still got 2 months to play. The one issue, though, or the two problems I think I have with the timing of this is one, it's another thing of adversity that they got to overcome, and you still haven't had a collective, consistent play. The second thing is, it really throws Kobe Altman's job in a wrench into his evaluation of what he wants to do in 2 months from now for that trade deadline in February. Because at that point in time, you're looking at these two guys potentially coming back. If not then, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little after. And so what are you going to do to try to improve the club? His hands are already tied with the lack of draft picks he has to make a move. So, those are podcasts for a different day, but that's another thing to think about.
Yeah. Are we going to have the Donovan Mitchell conversation now, or are we going to have the opportunities that this creates for young players conversation? Sam, what do you want to have first?
I'm not exactly sure what the Donovan Mitchell conversation is, so let's have that first. I'll just jump right into it.
All right. I think I texted this in the group and it might have got buried, or I don't remember how it was responded. What does this do for Mitchell's future here in Cleveland? Does this accelerate a trade? Does it solidify that he's going to stay here? What do you see? How does this impact Mitchell's kind of immediate or extended future with the team, Sam?
Well, immediate, I don't think there's any change there. As far as he's going to, he's going to want to try to carry the team. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. He's a great locker room guy. He's a great teammate in terms of being very uplifting and building his teammates up. That's very evident just seeing him around the team. You can that's just the eye test. But he knows he's going to have to be able to do, he's going to have to do more now. And that doesn't mean necessarily more scoring, but more elevating the rest of the guys around him. As far as his future, again, I don't think anybody's going to react and say, I want out of here as soon as two guys get injured, even though they're huge pieces of the team. I think that That's something for down the road. And like I said, they have all these home games coming up. Let's see how they respond to this. Let's see, again, you said we'll be talking about this, but Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, these are guys who, particularly LeVert and Okoro, these are guys who have lifted their games up before. They just have to do it consistently now in this situation. Craig Porter Jr., I know we'll get into that in a minute, but as far as Mitchell's future, I don't think anything's changed at all for that. He's very focused on the next game, and not so much big picture. I think that when players think about the big picture after, however many years I've covered the league now, 15, 20 years, players don't focus on the big picture during the season. They focus on that during the off season when there's time to step back and start thinking about that. They don't have practice every day. They don't have the next game. That's something that's not really on their minds at all during the season. Off season, they'll take a couple weeks, and that's when they really evaluate and analyze what's going on. So as far as Donovan Mitchell, I don't think that anything has changed. His mindset is win the next game with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Beyond that, he's not thinking beyond that. I haven't asked him that, but I could tell you that's what he would say. And having covered the league a long time, these guys, it's just like, it's different from the rest of us where we go to work and maybe there's another job offer kind of hovering out there. Not even an offer, just something like, boy, I'd like to go work at that place. We may do that. Athletes don't, because then you'd get blown off the floor if you did that, if you weren't focused on the next game, the next moment.
Sabol, how do you think this impacts Mitchell's future with the team?
I agree with Sam. I also think one point that can't be understated is the fact that Kobe Altman is not a panicked jerk kind of guy. He's not going to make a move or do any type of move. He's very, analytically and level head. And if he's going to make a move, it's going to take a lot of thought process with he and his team, Mike Gansey and company. So there's not going to be a move like that right now. And, you do need to see how this team responds. And Mitchell will be the leader of this team, as he has been, and he will be. The schedule is very favorable coming up here. Hawks, Rockets, Jazz, Pelicans, Bulls coming up here around out the last of the month. I think you have the Mavericks and Bucks before the calendar flips into 24. So there's some winnable ball games there. I mean, every game in the NBA is winnable, but you know what I mean? A favorable win at that. So, the sky isn't falling. It's not ideal. But do I think it impacts Mitchell's trajectory in the short term? No. Does it impact it long term? Not really. However, I will say this as a caveat to that, is this, if you think about this, let's say the Cavs, Chase, you love hypotheticals. If the Cavs drop like 10 straight and you're at the trade deadline,
why would we not be sellers and he's out of here? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, but you're not there yet. And that's a hypothetical.
It's more realistic now than it was this morning.
Well, they haven't played a game yet.
Yeah.
They haven't played a game yet. But if you are in a situation like that 2 months from now and they're in a downward spiral, I think maybe that conversation has to be approached. Maybe. But I don't think it does. And I don't think that anything happens at all.
The last 3 episodes we've recorded was the sky's falling in Cleveland because we lost to the Trailblazers at home. And then so bad I forget the other bad loss that we had. We've had like 2 bad losses or something. And so this, and then if we lose, like, if we're, I totally see a scenario where we just, the next like month, 5 weeks, we just fall apart. Like, do you not think that is like plausible?
It's plausible. It's possible. It could happen. But I mean, under a normal situation, I don't know if it would. I mean, I'd be
surprised if they fall apart. If the record goes, because they just because the schedule's so favorable, and they do have guys who, put it this way, they still have Donovan Mitchell. Okay, that to me is a big deal.
Yep, you're right.
They
You're
still
right.
have Jared
All
Allen,
NBA, all NBA,
all NBA. You have Karis LeVert, who's very capable of putting up big numbers. They're a good defensive team from 1 through 9. People probably heard me mention Dean Wade earlier.
Yeah.
They're like, really, Dean Wade? He's done a very nice job this year in his minutes playing defense and rebounding. Dean Wade has to start hitting shots.
Yeah.
I mean, every time he shoots the ball, I'm like, it's not going in. And it usually doesn't. So he's got to start making shots, but he's doing the other things very well. And I would say he's having a career year defensively and rebounding and making those kind of hustle plays. So all of those guys are going to have to,
you're right.
They can play bad. LeVert, Okoro, Wade, Jared Allen, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others in there. Well, obviously Max Strus is going to have to step up a little bit and be more consistent, which he's done a nice job.
Every time he shoots, I think it's going in. Let me tell you that.
Right. He's the opposite
silky.
of me,
Yeah.
of Dean Wade for me.
Look, all I'm saying is I've been concerned for the past, 3 weeks or so, had a couple really, really rough weeks where the team, they got booed off. Like it's not been the easiest holiday since Thanksgiving. And then this happened. I'm on high alert. I've moved from concern to high alert.
Chase, before their last 3 losses, which are all extremely understandable losses, which are
you're right.
Orlando, Boston, and Boston.
Back to back in
they
Boston.
Won 9 of 12.
Yeah.
You're
right.
I mean, they had they had one bad loss. I've got news for you guys. As I'm sure you know this already, John. You probably do, Chase. I'm just going to serve it as a reminder. They're going to have more bad losses.
No.
There's 57 games left. They're going to have more bad losses. They're going to have some wins that nobody sees coming either. That's just the way the NBA season goes. What you want to do is minimize, the ups and downs. You want to have a flat level of winning consistently and playing your style consistently.
I hear that. I'm just saying we've already complained about the team. There's already been discussions on this podcast about Bickerstaff's job. And that was before Garland and Mobley is out through January 24.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
No, it's not. How? It is not a different conversation. It's the same conversation. We were concerned about the trajectory of the team before these injuries.
You were concerned.
I wasn't the only one.
I'm not. I mean, I think they're okay.
Sam, you're the outlier. You're the one who's like playing it cool hand Luke because the team will be fine. We can't ignore that this was a concern before these injuries happened. And then now two of our best players are gone. And it's not unrealistic to think that this could continue to devolve. And all of a sudden it's trade deadline and we're sellers and an all NBA player is no longer on the team. Or we don't have a coach.
I think I would be stunned if any of that happened this year. Go ahead, John.
Wait, Sam, are you saying there's a better chance, or you're more stunned that JB gets fired or if Mitchell gets traded? Or both?
I'd be stunned if either of those things happen during the season.
Yeah. So it's funny because if you think about how the Cavs have operated in the last 10 years when it comes to their head coaches and the firings, and we can go way back, there's been a lot of in-season firings. So I wouldn't be stunned if JB gets fired at some point. I think it's predicated on what happens in the next 2 months, if not sooner. I will be honest about that. I don't think Donovan gets moved. But if there are bad losses per se, like Sam says there will be, and there will be, I think you need to see the trends. I think you need to see the effort. If you start seeing guys not putting effort in there, JB's seat's going to get warm. It's going to get hot if you see an effort, or the lack thereof.
That I agree
at
with.
some point. So
for sure.
I don't think he's going to get canned, but I think the possibility of him getting canned is much higher than Mitchell getting moved. And I think the next 2 months, magnifying glass on him over anybody else on that roster.
And all I'm trying to say is the news today with Garland and Mobley make either of those things closer to reality. Maybe Bickerstaff more so than Mitchell. But they gave up a ton in this Mitchell trade, like so many draft picks. And if there's an offer for a team who's wanting to make an effort this year and they offer 50 cents on the dollar or whatever to recoup some. I don't know. I
think if they trade Mitchell, it would be either at the soonest the off season.
I would agree.
Probably more likely if they felt the need, then it would be at next year's deadline or closer to next year's trade deadline. I really don't think that they. First of all, they're not giving up on anything right now. They see the same schedule we do and think,
right.
We can get through this. If we get Darius Garland back in 4 weeks, well, that's the end of our long home stretch where we play like 15 to 21 at home.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm not saying they should. It's just that we were concerned before all this happened, and now this has happened. And I don't know, worth the discussion. Can we change the discussion to a little more positive conversation?
Can I just throw one thing in that
please,
real quickly?
Please.
Obviously, as a child of the 80s, what a friend and I were talking about tonight, this is nothing to do with the Cavs. Listen, I'm going to first give this disclaimer. I think Darius Garland's injury is real and very serious. I think Evan Mobley's is real and very serious, and I haven't doubted the Cavs. However,
I agree.
Without question, as somebody who watched basketball from the 90s till today, without question, training is better today. Nutrition is better today. There's more medical personnel on each team today. These guys are constantly getting, imaging and x-rays and CAT scans and all that stuff. There are so many more injuries today. And I can't, and look, JB Bickerstaff has brought this up, and he said, the joke is that the more medical personnel you have, the more injuries you have. So, he kind of laughed about that. Now, granted, there's more, obviously it makes sense because there's more technology to find out exactly what these injuries are. But there are so many, and I'm not talking about the Cavaliers specifically here. I'm not ragging on the Cavs or any of that. I'm with you, Chase. I believe their injury reports, and I think that these things with Garland and Mobley are very serious. But you look around the NBA, and this is a constant thing. It's so constant that the league has made rules this year. They put it in the new collective bargaining agreement that if you don't play in 65 games, you're not eligible for postseason awards, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, it's good that the training's better. It's good that the nutrition's better. But if we're doing all this, why is everybody getting hurt all the time? Which it does. I understand the fans' frustration with this. They're all, and it's not just the NBA. It's the NFL. I mean, obviously, I know Chase is going to say who, but look at the Cleveland Browns. Look at around the NFL, not even the Browns. Look around the NBA. It's constant. It is a constant. I mean, you look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Why is it now, when we have all of this stuff and all of these ways that we have such better athletes, which we do? I watched the games in the 90s and watch them today. The athletes are way better because they're better trained and they have better nutrition, but they're constantly hurt. And I don't understand why that is. And I'm not judging. I'm not questioning. I'm just wondering why that is.
So that's a deep rooted conversation, Sam, that we could talk hours for. I've done some stories in the past in my career about injuries like this for other television stations, not here in Cleveland. The NFL situation is a different beast altogether. The field turf is the main reason as to why you're getting a lot of these injuries now. That's why there's big movement now in the NFL where players, the CBA or the Players Association, wants to eliminate turf and grass. The NBA, obviously, there's no grass. You're playing on the same wood you played on it 30 years ago, albeit there may be a little bit more give in the courts. I think the bigger thing is, this is just sports in general, is that these kids that are playing these games, football and basketball, just isolate these two sports. The reason why you're seeing more injuries, and take the turf out of it for a second, is these kids were playing these sports, just maybe one singular sport for the most part, their entire life at some point when they get into their teenage years, and they're just not playing a season. They're playing year round. You're playing the AAUs. You're playing the travel leagues. In football, you're playing these 7-on-7 tournaments in the summer. You're maybe just playing or lifting just for football. You're not playing baseball. You're not playing soccer or hockey or whatever sport it is. So your body is taking the wear and tear. And then now you're seeing it maybe potentially in some cases. I'm not saying this is the case for Evan Mobley or Darius Garland, but you're seeing it in some of these athletes, the repercussion of your body is now can't catch up to the grind and the being battered and bruised. The Garland injury, it's a freak injury. I don't know about Mobley's knee, how that originally happened, but you get what I mean? So like this, there are guys that were a product, kids are a product of that environment at a young age. And now in their early to late 20s, you're seeing them kind of fall apart in a way. Football's a different beast, obviously. You kind of see it in baseball with pitchers. You don't really see much in hockey because not much has changed there. But yeah, it is an interesting thing, Sam. Absolutely. And it's sad to see. And if it's frustrating for fans, I think the owners feel they're pumping millions and millions of dollars in these guys and they're not playing when they're hurt.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. There is no time off. When you're a basketball player who's an elite basketball player from a young age, that's all you're doing all the time. You don't really take time off. You're not, the days of the multi-sport star are at the high school level are pretty much gone because everything's so. And I'll say this: they're starting earlier too. My 7-year-old is in first grade basketball league, and I remember in first grade I didn't even know what basketball was. I'm not saying he really does either, but they're starting him. So, I'm like, man, I didn't start playing on a team or in a league until fourth grade. And that was like my first year in basketball when I was first figuring it out. Now by fourth grade, if you're not on a travel team, you're probably not going to be that great. It's just, it's really become, where it's a kid is good. They really hammer them with training and all that at a young age. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a big tangent, but I'm just like, my friend and I were just discussing this tonight, and it's just like stunning because you go back and look at Michael Jordan's games. He missed one season with a broken foot. But if you look at the rest of his career, 82 games and the playoffs and the finals every year. You don't see that from anyone anymore. Nobody. And that was what, 25 years ago? So I'm just like, in the training and the nutrition and stuff weren't anywhere near where they are now, but that guy was going out there every day, and it wasn't just him. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Magic Johnson, you name anybody, all of those guys were playing every night, every game.
And Sam, in that era, it was rare for a guy to miss a whole year with an injury. Very rare. It happened. Very rare. I mean, Mark Price missed a year with a knee injury, right? Like 90,
yes. 92? I think. I think it was 90. I think it was 90. Yeah, he tore his ACL. He crashed into the Atlanta Hawks scoreboard.
Score table, yeah.
I just want to wrap up this conversation. I think if the playoffs started tomorrow, Mobley and Garland would play. Maybe more Mobley than Garland. I think.
Not if they wouldn't play tomorrow. Heavens no. Maybe they come back sooner. They try to come back sooner, but Mobley's, he's having arthroscopic surgery, and Garland has a broken jaw. Garland might roll out a mask or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't think they play tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not going to play doctor, but I don't think they play tomorrow either. Plus, you don't know if the injury to Mobley's knee, if it would cause more damage if he played on it.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's have a more positive conversation, because that was all just nasty and negative, and I don't like being that way. I really don't. With Garland's time away and Mobley's time away, that is going to create more opportunities for more young players, going to create opportunities for a bigger staff to coach for his job, right? Like, to really show what he can do. This does create more time for Craig Porter Jr. This will create, hopefully, time for Monty Bates. We don't know if he's going to be called up, but we certainly do hope so. John, I was hoping we'd see more Craig Porter Jr. on the court anyway, right?
Yeah, I was too. I mean, he certainly showed flashes when Garland was out earlier, and I mean, he's played, lights out when he's had the time. I wish he was in the rotation a little bit more, but guess what? That wish is going to be granted because he'll be in that rotation more. You'll see him, and then you'll see Sam Merrill come more off the bench, I think, because Donovan's not going to carry the entire load at the point. You need somebody else, and that's Craig Porter, because we know Ty Jerome's still hurt and Ricky Rubio's still not back. So that limits you big time right there. I don't think the Cavs make a move for anybody. I think Craig Porter is a stopgap, and Amani Bates, if he gets called up, he can certainly show signs there, or has showed certainly signs to us in preseason and the NBA Summer League that he can play. Although there are some major still flaws in his game, and then who knows? Maybe Isaiah Mobley can get into the rotation as well if he gets called up too.
Yep, Sam. Do you see a start in Craig Porter Jr.'s future?
No, not immediate future. I think they're going to go with Mitchell, LeVert, Max Strus, Wade, and Allen. I think that's going to be who. Again, that's just a guess, but just based on who they generally will start, and then you'll have Craig Porter Jr. coming off the bench. You'll have Okoro coming off the bench, and you'll have George Niang coming off the bench, and then Allen's primary backup's probably going to be Tristan. So, I think that's going to be the rotation. And then if you have to, you use Sam Merrill a little bit. They've been using him. Yeah. So his whole Merrill's thing's going to be, are you knocking down shots? And if he is, he's going to get some minutes. So, I mean, right there's, I just named 10 guys, and JB's been playing 8 a lot of games, So I think that, yeah, that's probably going to be your primary rotation. In the absence, I don't know. I do think that there's an opportunity here for Ramoni Bates. Is he going to be? Are they going to allow that to happen? Is that something that they feel he's ready to do? If not, here are your guys. The guys I just listed. That's going to be the rotation, and you just have to hope that those guys stay healthy. So I do think we'll see plenty of Craig Porter Jr. I don't think that they're going to throw him right in, as a rookie. Okay, now you haven't played in 3 games, so now you're going to go start. I don't see that happening. I think that LeVert or Okoro will get the start.
I'm ready. I want to see him play. I want to see what we got. I want to take him out for a test drive. I want to see him, find the rhythm as a starter, not come on. Let's see what he's got. I don't know. I mean, we've seen, I feel like that lineup has been on the court before. I think I remember, and so I think we know what that is. I want to see what he can do. I feel like he and Mitchell played well together. And I don't know, John, am I overvaluing maybe, or being a little over ambitious with Craig Porter Jr.?
I don't think so. I just think the experience factor may not have been there, obviously, for maybe JB to trust him in that role, but I still think he's still gonna get those minutes. Maybe not as much as you would like. I seem to think he may play a little bit more than what Sam thinks. But just to take minutes off of Strus, and yeah, you still have LeVert and Mitchell. Obviously, you take minutes off Mitchell, you still have Strus and LeVert. But I think if you get a situation where someone's in foul trouble or whatever, he's going to get more time. I still think you need to see it though. I think if you want this kid to thrive and to get in a situation where, you get experience, especially against these softer opponents coming up here on the schedule, that's softer coming up. That's the time to see it. But what you would really like to see is the Cavs play one of these bad teams and you get like a double-digit lead in the fourth, so you can throw them out there to see him out there. So I don't know. I think what you also see in Craig Porter, you see what we saw in season, or the in season term, the summer league, and we can't help but eyes open up like, wow, this kid's got a bright future, and he does to a certain extent. But that was the summer league, and that was the preseason, so it comes with a grain of salt. Same for Amani.
Well, I think Porter will get minutes. Don't get me wrong. I think he'll be part of the rotation, and I think that he did play well. Obviously, we saw him play well in the opportunities he's been given during the regular season. But I don't think you're going to go to Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert and say, hey, we're going to give this undrafted rookie who hasn't played, we're going to give him the first crack at starting over either one of you. I don't think that's the way you approach it, but I do think he'll be a regular part. And I'm not saying you're saying that, John. I'm just trying to explain why I don't think he'll start. I just think
I agree. I don't think he starts either. Yeah.
I do think he's going to play. I mean, I think at least until Ty Jerome, who knows what's going on there, but I do think Porter, and he certainly fans it every game. Every game he does not play, I get all kinds of tweets and emails and stuff and messages on my Facebook. Why isn't Craig Porter Jr. almost like they're mad at me that he didn't play? But I get it. I mean, he's looked good when he has had an opportunity for sure.
Well, it'll be anxious. It'll be exciting to see how this team works through the Garland and the Mobley injury. We're going to take a quick break here from our good friends at Homage and DraftKings. And when we come back, let's look at the this week's games, next week's games, and what this is going to look like for the team. Stick around, Cavs on the break. We'll be right back. Hey, Breakers, Chase Smith here. I know you're a huge fan of the Cavs, and let's be honest, probably any professional team in Cleveland you're going to like. And there's no better way to show it by wearing your team colors to the office or around the house. Homage makes the most stylish Cleveland Cavs gear, and it's the most comfortable. And what better time to get yourself a gift than this holiday season? Head on over to the link in our show notes to see what Homage has to offer. They offer a wide range of official NFL, NBA, and MLB licenses, as well as official gear from Nickelodeon and the WB. Yes, that's right. They do more than sports. There's something for everyone over at Homage.com. Personally, I have this awesome maroon Cavs hoodie with the gold Cavs lettering over the front, a Garland Mobley NBA Jam style t-shirt, and a super comfy Columbus Clippers t-shirt. I wear these items all the time, especially this new Cavs hoodie. It's warm, it's cozy, and I don't want to take it off. It's the best. It looks great. Check out the link in our show notes and get your Homage gear today.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tyrus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tyvis, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary, and we love ball cards.
And if you love ball cards too, good news. You just found your new favorite podcast. From breaks to grading.
And from collecting to flipping, join us on the Ball Card Show.
The sports podcast for the sports collector.
All right, we're back. Cavs on the break. Chase Smith, John Sabol, Sam Amico. Hey, did you know we relaunched our college basketball podcast, guys?
Did not know that until now.
Very cool.
The Full 40 college basketball podcast hosted by Ben Billman. He's a college basketball coach. He has a couple years experience with sports management, and he's doing a great job. He's already released a couple episodes. Make sure you guys go check that out. the Full 40 College Basketball Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Well, as Sam mentioned earlier, we and John, that we have 1-3 on our last road trip. This week's games, we lost to Orlando on Monday, and then Boston, back-to-back games here. We have a game against the Hawks on Saturday, which is today. When you're listening to this, we play the Hawks at the Rock, 7:30. Sam, are you going?
The Hawks game, no, I will not be able to attend. I have another family commitment. It'd be only my second miss of the year. On the bright side, they won the first game I missed. So
yes,
first home game. But I will be very much in tune with what's going on in the game.
Yes, and then that sets us up for a week of home games almost until next Saturday. Monday against the Rockets at the Rock, 7 p.m. Wednesday the 20th against the Jazz, 7 p.m. Thursday the 21st against the Pelicans at the Rock, and then Saturday we are at the United Center, Chicago, against the Bulls. As John mentioned, very favorable games. The schedule does seem to soften up against teams that are. The Jazz are in trade rumors, right? We saw today Lauri Markkanen is reportedly on the block. The Bulls, Sam, you mentioned that, or someone mentioned that the Bulls tried to trade us Zach LaVine for Darius Garland. Thank goodness they didn't pull the trigger on that. I mean, that just sounds like a drunk fantasy offer at like 11:50 p.m. that someone's trying to do. So a lot of these teams, just it seems like if we are trying to get some wins and to stop people like myself from making outrageous claims on podcasts, this would be a time to pull a couple wins together again and maybe go 9 of the last 10 or whatever they did to pull up to 500. Like, my goodness, if you have to go 9 of your last 12 to get up to 500, like, I think it's cause for concern. So I don't think we were too far off being concerned when we were. But Sam, the next week or so, what do you want to see out of the Cavs?
Well, I think they need to win. I mean, obviously, but what you want to see is, along with that, obviously, is that they are able to play as if you believe they can continue to win. You know what I mean? They want to play good defensive basketball. They're really going to have to do this with defense. Their offense, really, I still don't fear that their offense. I wouldn't fear, if I were them, that their offense is going to be that big of an issue, because Mitchell's going to get points. LeVert's certainly capable of getting points, and you're going to have to find scoring from somewhere else. Obviously somebody like Strus is ideal, Jared Allen's ideal, and Dean Wade's got to start making shots. Okoro's got to be more involved offensively. I think that's a little bit of him and a little bit of just the offense. He's not been real involved. That's got to change. And I thought Okoro before his knee injury was having a career season, but since the knee injury, he's gone back to that. Is he on the floor? And that can't happen. At this point, he's really got to make him, kind of make himself known offensively. Again, this doesn't have to be 20-point games from these guys. They have to be threats. These guys on the outliers, guys other than LeVert, who's really got to score, and Mitchell. So I think number one, they've got to win to just keep pace with everybody else, but mostly they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to win, and how is this going to be sustainable without two huge pieces? They've got to get that figured out.
Oof, yeah. I think they have to win to keep the psychos from saying JB's going to lose his job and Mitchell's going to be traded.
I don't want to keep coming on this podcast if they're not winning. And
right. Yeah. You got to stop me from asking stupid questions. John, what are you looking to see out of this Cavs team over the next 8 to 10 days here?
I just want to see how they respond here against these bad teams, and with Mitchell gone, or excuse me. Well, we don't want Mitchell to be gone with Garland and Mobley gone. If there was an injury to Mitchell like that, that would be, wow, that'd be doom and gloom times 100, right? I think if you come out of this rest of the slate into December, into the first of the year, above 500 overall, and then maybe you go 7-2 on that trip, or that stretch, that's encouraging. because that's just going to give them more confidence. They're going to build forward, and you want to see how these young guys play. So I think in the short term, it's not all bad because of what's happening with the schedule, but you really got to see how they perform. They're going to have that effort, and hopefully they can string together some wins because they desperately need it.
Yeah. Woo. Man, we didn't record last night for numerous reasons. We had to record today after all that news. Appreciate you guys hopping on a Friday night, man. Like on a Friday night. Thank you guys for hopping on Cavs on the break and chatting with us.
I'm pretty sure I just looked at the schedule real fast, and I'm pretty sure 11 of the next 14 are at home. So that's extremely, if they're going to be in this situation, now's the time to do it because they haven't been great at home. They haven't been, they've been about 500 at home, but I just think that now would not be as big of a concern again as if they were going on some long trip or something. So I just wanted to try and lift your spirits, Chase, even though it didn't seem to work.
No, well, and to bring this full circle. Sorry, Sabol, go ahead.
No, I was just saying what's weird is, Sam, they haven't played well at home this year. They were awesome at home last year. One of the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
Number 2 in the East, I guess, at home last year. Like, what happened? I mean, no more home court advantage, gone. It's just so odd to me.
And to bring this full circle, all I'm saying is how convenient of a time to have 2 of your best young players sit out, get treatment, be injured, than on this stretch between now and the middle of January when you're only away once or twice. And it's announced on the same day, 45 minutes apart. It's just.
I'd like everybody to know that's listening. God, thank you for listening, but I am not part of this conspiracy theory.
I'm not saying it's conspiracy. I'm not saying. I do want them to be healthy 100% full go for the playoffs because no one wants what happened in the playoffs again to happen again. Like no one wants that. So Get healthy, do the minor surgeries to get rid of free bodies in the knee. Do that, get your broken jaw fixed, and let's get this nice rush in the last month or so of the season, head into the playoffs, and let's make some noise in the playoffs. Let's let them know.
That very well said, and that's what's important is that you are healthy and together when it means the most. Right
Sam,
now, you want to be able to survive right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get your credentials in trouble by saying that I don't think they're injured. I do think they're injured.
We can say whatever I'd like, and I don't think they'd be in trouble.
No,
I just am trying to add some perspective as opposed to emotion.
Yeah. No,
and I'll tell you what, I used to be very emotional, Chase. Obviously, you've done this podcast with me for a while and would see that. But I think now it's not, as John said at the very beginning, they haven't played a game yet. We don't even know what this is going to look like or how it's going to go. So it's hard to project and predict. If they lose 3 or 4 in a row, I'll be a lot less perspective and a lot more emotional. But I don't foresee that happening because of the favorable schedule. So I think they're okay. I really do. I think they're all right now. Maybe I'm terribly wrong, but the way I look at it is like, well, 13-12, in spite of it all, now they've got the home stretch. They have to take care of business during this stretch. So otherwise they won't, Sam Amico probably won't be so nice about things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, like I said, I was concerned before. Now I'm on high alert. Sabol, where are you at before we head off here? How are you feeling about the team?
I'm okay. It's definitely massive blows. I would like me again New Year's Day.
Yeah.
When we do a pod then, because this next stretch of games like we keep talking about will dictate how this team goes into the new year, trade deadline, and future of everything.
It's a big week.
Yeah, it's a big month. Big next 2 weeks.
Big couple weeks. Whew, I'm nervous. Well, that does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening to this emergency Darius Garland, Evan Mobley injury podcast. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Make sure to follow us back on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Always. Shouts to DraftKings. You can download the app now. Use code P3Cavs to sign up. If you're a first-time sign-up, you get $200 in instant bets right away. Also, shouts to Homage. Make sure if you're looking for that last-minute Christmas gift and you want some nice, comfy, awesome Cavs clothes, use the link in our show notes. We'd love to direct you to where you can pick that up. Follow the same on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his works and writings at Hoops Wire and at Wire Hoops on Twitter. Follow John on Twitter at John_Sabol. Whew, I'm Chase at the Chase Smith. Fellas, who wins the Junkyard Dog Award for tonight?
I hate to vote first, but I probably will. I would, and I think you were both fabulous, but I'd probably give it to Chase.
No, not me.
You need something to lift your spirits. And
I don't want your sympathy, Junkyard. I don't want your sympathy.
There's many
James.
reasons that you can.
I was going to say you.
Dog Award.
I was going to say you.
I think that. I don't know. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, Sam, you get it. We can't give it to a conspiracy theorist over there.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, he is calling out people. I'm
not.
Is Chase's last name? Is Chase's dad's name Alex and last name Jones?
Oh boy. No.
Oh wow.
Look,
he'd have a friend.
They are injured. They are hurt. I'm just. I don't know. I hope they get better and they come back ready to go. That's all I'm trying to say. Well, Sam, Junkyard Dog of War, congratulations. Any final thoughts, my dude?
No, thank you again. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I'm always happy about it. And look, this stretch really, again, can't emphasize it enough. Obviously, you were without two big guns. You've got to at least stay at 500, but you've got to gain some ground somehow, some way. Yeah. So we'll see what the next podcast brings for us.
Yes, we will. All right. Until that time, you guys have an awesome holiday season. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.